You leave this house with exactly what you brought into it. Absolutely nothing. That was the last thing Gabe said to his wife of 10 years before locking the door of their $5 million mansion. He thought he had won. He thought he had discarded a dependent, helpless woman who would crumble without his credit cards. He was wrong. Gabe didn't know that the woman he just kicked to the curb wasn't just a housewife. She was the hidden heiress to a global empire. And her brother, the ruthlessly protective CEO of Sterling Industries, was about to turn Gabe's divorce court into a crime scene. You think you know revenge? You haven't seen anything yet. The rain in Seattle wasn't just rain. It was a relentless grey curtain that seemed to wash away all hope. Inside the sleek, modern glass walls of the Vance estate, the atmosphere was even colder than the storm outside. Camelia Vance stood in the center of the living room, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched a cardboard box. It was a humiliatingly small box, an old Amazon shipping container she had fished out of the recycling bin in the garage. Inside were a few framed photographs, a ceramic dog she'd painted on their first date, and her mother's old tattered Bible. "Are you deaf, Camelia?" The voice boomed from the top of the floating staircase. Gabe Vance descended like a king, coming down to scold a peasant. He was handsome in that sharp, predatory way, impeccably dressed in a tailored Tom Ford suit, his jawline sharp enough to cut glass, and his eyes utterly devoid of warmth. "I said, hurry up," Gabe snapped, checking his platinum Rolex. "I have guests arriving at 7. I don't want you cluttering up the foyer." Camelia looked up at him. 10 years. She had given him 10 years of her life. She had nursed him through his first failed startup. She had managed the household, entertained his boring investors, and smoothed over his temper tantrums. She had been the invisible glue holding his life together. "Gabe," she said, her voice quiet but steady. "It's pouring outside. My car, you cancelled the insurance. I can't even drive it legally." Gabe laughed. It was a cruel, barking sound. "Your car? That's my car, Camelia. The title is in the company name. Vantage Tech Property. And since you are no longer an employee or an asset to Vantage Tech, you don't get the perks. You can call an Uber or walk. I really don't care." He reached the bottom of the stairs and walked over to the side table, pouring himself a scotch. He took a sip, grimacing as if her mere presence tainted the flavor. "Look, let's make this simple," Gabe said, turning to face her. He pulled a thick envelope from his inside jacket pocket and tossed it onto the coffee table. It landed with a heavy thud. "Sign that. It's a settlement waiver. You admit that you contributed nothing to the business, you waive spousal support, and you agree to a clean break. In exchange, I won't sue you for the emotional distress of being a terrible wife." Camelia stared at the envelope. "You want me to leave with nothing after I used my inheritance from my grandmother, pay off your first business loan?" "That was $20,000. Gabe, that was a gift." "Gift?" Gabe roared, his face suddenly red. "And that money is long gone, burned in the market. You have no proof. And even if you did, my lawyers, Goldman Sachs, and whatever team I hire will bury you in paperwork until you starve. Do you have $50,000 for a retainer, Camelia?" "No." "You have what?" "A box of trash." He walked over and kicked the cardboard box at her feet. It slid across the polished marble floor. "You're pathetic," he sneered. "I need a woman who matches my status. Someone with ambition, not a charity case I picked up at a library fundraiser." Just then, the front door buzzed. Gabe's face transformed instantly from a mask of rage to a welcoming smile. He strode past Camelia as if she were invisible and threw open the massive oak door. Standing there, shaking a wet umbrella, was Chloe. She was 23, a junior marketing executive at Gabe's firm, and she was wearing a coat that cost more than Camelia's entire wardrobe. "Baby," Chloe squealed, jumping into Gabe's arms. She kissed him deeply right there in the open doorway, oblivious, or perhaps uncaring, that Camelia was standing 10 feet away. When they pulled apart, Chloe looked over Gabe's shoulder. Her eyes widened in mock surprise. "Oh, she's still here. Just leaving," Gabe promised, stroking Chloe's hair. "She was just saying goodbye to the house." Chloe smirked, walking into the room and tossing her purse onto the sofa, Camelia's favorite spot. Well, don't take too long, we're redecorating on Monday. I hate this beige. It's so depressing. Camelia felt a physical pain in her chest, a tightening that made it hard to breathe. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the erasure. They were erasing her existence in real time. Camelia bent down and picked up her box. She didn't scream, she didn't throw a vase, she simply looked at Gabe one last time. "You're making a mistake, Gabe," she said softly. "The only mistake I made was marrying a nobody," he retorted, turning his back to pour Chloe a drink. "Leave the keys on the table and don't scratch the floor on your way out." Camelia placed her house key on the marble console table. It clicked, a final metallic period at the end of a long, painful sentence. She opened the heavy front door and stepped out into the deluge. The rain soaked her instantly, plastering her hair to her face, chilling her to the bone. She didn't have an umbrella. She didn't have a car. She began to walk down the long, wooden driveway of the estate, her shoes sloshing in the puddles. At the bottom of the hill, just outside the iron gates that were now closing behind her, effectively locking her out, she found shelter under a bus stop awning. She set the wet box on the bench. She was shivering uncontrollably. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. The screen was cracked, another casualty of Gabe's temper from a week ago. She dialed a number she hadn't called in 4 years. It rang once, twice. "Hello?" A deep, authoritative voice answered. It wasn't warm, but it was familiar. "Julian," Camelia's voice cracked. There was a silence on the other end. Then the tone of the voice shifted from corporate indifference to intense alertness. "Ellie, is that you?" He threw me out, Julian. He took everything. "I'm at the bus stop on Highland Drive. Stay there," the voice commanded. The authority in his tone was absolute, the kind of voice that moved markets and toppled governments. "Do not move. I am tracking your phone. I'm sending the jet to Boeing Field, but I'll have a car there in 10 minutes. "Yes?" she whispered, tears finally mixing with the rain on her face. "Is he still inside the house?" "Yes. With her." "Good," Julian said, and his voice dropped to a terrifyingly low register. "Let him get comfortable. Let him think he's won. I want him to feel safe before we burn his world down." For the next 3 months, Camelia lived a ghost life. To the outside world, and specifically to Gabe's private investigators. She was living in a cramped one-bedroom apartment in a run-down complex in South Seattle. She took the bus, she was seen grocery shopping with coupons, she worked a shift at a local bookstore. Gabe Vance loved every report. His lawyer, the notorious shark, an Alan Dershowitz wannabe named Silas Thorne, sent him. "She's breaking, Gabe," Silas said over a speakerphone lunch in Gabe's high-rise office. "We checked her accounts. She's got less than $500. She hasn't hired counsel yet. She's likely going to default on the divorce filing, and you'll get a summary judgment." Gabe swirled his cognac, looking out over the city skyline. "I told you she's nothing without me. She's probably waiting for me to come rescue her." "Well, don't," Silas chuckled. "The court date for the asset division is set for November 15th. If she shows up, she'll have a public defender who won't know a balance sheet from a bedsheet. You'll walk out with everything, and she'll walk out with a bus token." What Gabe didn't know was that the cramped apartment, the bus rides, the grocery coupons, it was all theater. The real Camelia Sterling, was living in a penthouse suite at the Four Seasons, courtesy of her brother Julian. Julian Sterling was not a man to be crossed. At 38, he was the CEO of Sterling Industries, a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate that spanned tech, real estate, and defense contracts. He was known in boardrooms, the Reaper, because when he entered negotiations, careers ended, and Camelia was his baby sister. The night Camelia called him from that bus stop, Julian had made 2 phone calls. The first was to his head of security, a former CIA operative named Marcus. Find out everything about Gabe Vance. Bank accounts, mistresses, parking tickets, everything. I want to know what color underwear he prefers. The second call was to his legal team. Prepare a hostile takeover package for Vantage Tech and find me the best divorce attorney in Seattle. No, scratch that. Find me the best divorce attorney in the country. Within 48 hours, Julian had a file 3 inches thick on Gabe Vance. It was ugly. Embezzlement, insider trading, securities fraud, tax evasion, and a pattern of using company funds for personal expenses, including the mistress's condo. He's a walking RICO charge, Julian's attorney, a shark named Diana Frost, said, flipping through the documents. We could have him arrested tomorrow. No, Julian said, leaning back in his chair. Arresting him is too easy. I want him destroyed. I want him to lose everything the way he made my sister lose everything, but slower, more painful. Diana smiled. It was not a kind smile. Then we go to court. November 15th arrived. The King County Superior Court was buzzing. Word had spread that Gabe Vance, the arrogant tech bro CAO, was about to steamroll his ex-wife in a divorce hearing. The gallery was packed with lawyers, reporters, and curious onlookers. Gabe arrived in a custom ermine suit, flanked by Silas Thorne and 2 junior associates carrying bankers' boxes of evidence. Chloe was there too, sitting in the front row, wearing a dress that screamed future Mrs. Vance. Gabe was smiling. He waved to a few people in the gallery like a celebrity. This was his victory lap. Then the doors opened. Camelia walked in, but she wasn't the broken woman Gabe expected. She was dressed in a sleek, navy Chanel suit. Her hair was styled, her posture was confident, and behind her was a legal army. Diana Frost led the charge, followed by 3 senior partners from the most prestigious law firm in the country. They wheeled in 6 bankers' boxes of their own. Gabe's smile faltered. Silas looked confused. Who the hell is paying for that? He muttered. Camelia took her seat at the plaintiff's table. She didn't look at Gabe. She didn't acknowledge him. She just opened a leather portfolio and began reviewing documents. All rise, the bailiff announced. Judge Patricia Harmon entered. She was a no-nonsense jurist with 25 years on the bench and a reputation for eviscerating lawyers who wasted her time. Be seated, Judge Harmon said. We are here for the final hearing in the matter of Vance v. Vance, asset division, and spousal support. Let's begin. Mr. Thorne, your opening. Silas stood up, buttoning his jacket. He launched into his prepared statement, painting Camelia as a gold digger and Gabe as a self-made man who owed her nothing. When he finished, Judge Harmon turned to the plaintiff's table. Ms. Frost, your response. Diana Frost stood up. She didn't walk to the podium. She just stood there, hands clasped, and smiled. Your Honor, Diana said, her voice calm and measured. My client is not here to dispute Mr. Vance's claims that he built Vantage Tech. She's here to take it. The courtroom went silent. Gabe shot to his feet. What? You can't. That's my company. Sit down, Mr. Vance. Judge Harmon snapped. Miss Frost, explain. Diana pulled out a document. Your Honor, this is the original incorporation filing for Vantage Tech, dated 10 years ago. It lists 2 founding partners, Mr. Gabriel Vance and Ms. Camelia Sterling. Gabe's face went white. Sterling? Her name is Vance, actually, Diana said. My client never legally changed her name. She used Vance socially, but all legal documents, including the company incorporation, list her as Camelia Sterling. She is and has always been a 50% owner of Vantage Tech. Silas grabbed the document from the bailiff. He read it. His hands started to shake. Your Honor, Diana continued, we are not asking for a division of assets. We are asking for a dissolution of the partnership under Washington state law, which allows for buyout or liquidation when one partner engages in fraudulent conduct. She pulled out another document. This is a forensic accounting report. Over the last 5 years, Mr. Vance has systematically embezzled $8.7 million from Vantage Tech. He used company funds to purchase a condo for his mistress, finance personal vacations, and buy luxury vehicles, all while claiming the company was operating at a loss to avoid paying my client her share of the profits. Judge Harmon leaned forward. Mr. Thorne, did you know about this? Silas was speechless. He looked at Gabe, who was pale and sweating. Your Honor, I was not made aware of any irregularities. Irregularities? Diana said. Your Honor, it's fraud. Plain and simple. And under the partnership agreement, my client is entitled to 100% buyout of her share at current market valuation, plus damages, plus attorney's fees. She handed a document to the judge. Vantage Tech was independently valued at $47 million. Last month, my client is owed $23.5 million, plus the $8.7 million in stolen funds, plus treble damages for fraud, totaling $61.2 million. The number hung in the air like a bomb. Gabe looked like he was having a heart attack. $61 million? I don't have $61 million. Then you'll have to liquidate the company, Diana said simply. Sell it, piece by piece if necessary. You can't do this, Gabe screamed. That company is my life. It was our life, Camelia said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. She stood up and looked at Gabe for the first time. You just forgot I was part of it. Judge Harmon banged her gavel. Mr. Vance, sit down, Miss Frost. I'm going to review these documents. We'll reconvene in 1 hour. The recess was chaos. Gabe was in a conference room, screaming at Silas. Chloe had fled, realizing the money train was about to derail. Reporters were scrambling to get quotes. In the plaintiff's conference room, Camelia sat calmly, sipping water. Diana Frost was on the phone with Julia. It's going exactly as planned, Diana said. He's panicking. Good, Julian's voice came through the speaker. Don't let up. I want him to feel every second of this. When court reconvened, Judge Harmon had made her decision. I've reviewed the evidence. The forensic accounting is damning. Mr. Vance, you have engaged in systematic fraud against your business partner. Miss Sterling is entitled to full remedy under the law. She looked at Gabe. You have 3 options. 1. Buy out Miss Sterling's share at the valuation of 61 points. 2. Sell the company and split the proceeds after damages. 3. Miss Sterling can force a liquidation and take her share from the assets. Gabe stood up, his voice desperate. Your Honor, I need time. I can get the money. I need 90 days, maybe 6 months. Denied, Judge Harmon said. You have 30 days to arrange financing or begin liquidation proceedings. Court is adjourned. As the gavel fell, Gabe Vance's world ended. But Camelia Sterling's was just beginning. 3 weeks later, Gabe sat in his now empty mansion. The furniture had been repossessed. The cars were gone. Chloe had left him the day after the hearing, taking with her every piece of jewelry he'd ever given her. His phone rang. It was Silas. Gabe, I have bad news. Sterling Industries just made an offer to buy Vantage Tech. $50 million. All cash. Sterling Industries? Gabe's blood ran cold. Julian Sterling? Yeah, Silas said. Turns out your ex-wife is his sister. Did you know that? Gabe dropped the phone. He had kicked out a Sterling. Not just any Sterling. Julian Sterling's baby sister. The buyout went through. Vantage Tech was absorbed into Sterling Industries. Gabe walked away with nothing. After legal fees, taxes, and damages, he was left with $127,000 and a studio apartment in Tacoma. Camelia, on the other hand, became the CTO of Sterling Industries' new tech division. She was on the cover of Forbes within 6 months. The Silent Architect, how Camelia Sterling built an empire while everyone was looking the other way. As for Gabe, he learned a lesson that came far too late. Never underestimate the woman who stood by you when you had nothing. Because one day, she might just be the one who takes everything when you're not looking. And that's the ultimate revenge. So, what do you think? Did Camelia go too far, or did Gabe get exactly what he deserved? Let me know in the comments below. And if you love this story of justice and redemption, smash that like button and subscribe for more. We have new stories every single day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.